I'm Brad Loiselle. I'm the founder of Arctic Freshwater. What drew me to working in the water space was our indigenous partners in Canada. They were struggling with access to clean drinking water, and many of them have for a long time. And because I'm pretty good at figuring out how to solve problems, they asked if I could help. I knew nothing about the water industry before this, to be quite honest with you. But I told them I'd think about it and do some research. I spent about 6 months understanding Canada and what water challenges Indigenous people have in Canada. And to my surprise, there were quite significant ones. And they recommended Iceland. They said Iceland has an abundance of water, fresh water, and they think there could be an opportunity there. Never been to Iceland before, so I decided maybe I should just come travel to Iceland and see what the landscape looks like here. But what was to my surprise, what I saw was Iceland has an abundance of water, a significant amount of water. And what made me rethink what I was working on was the scope of water that's lost into the ocean every year. There's 170 trillion liters of water that's just lost, and it's pure fresh water. And I thought about that. I thought, how many people on our planet need access to clean drinking water? Not just Canada, but around the world. And then when I learned the stats of 2.2 billion people don't have access to clean drinking water, 1,000 kids under the age of 5 die every day for no access to clean drinking water. With climate change and all the issues that we're having globally around access to water and how it's shifting from place to place, I started thinking that there's got to be a way that we can tap into the water source here and just reallocate it. And because it's pure, it doesn't need treatment plants. It doesn't have to go through processing. It literally comes out of the ground and it goes right into the cities and the pipes here. You can drink out of the lakes and rivers without any issue here. There's no contamination. It is the purest water in the planet. And so I thought, how do we build something to solve that? So many years later, we spent time over that time researching and planning and meeting with governments and trying to understand, meeting with local entrepreneurs and people who are involved in the water space here to understand how can we solve this problem. And basically, we realized that the way to solve it is we have to have a couple of key elements: access to water, access to a facility, access to a harbor, so that we can ship. Then once we have access to those three, then we can look at the overall global logistics and how do we distribute around the planet and what that looks like. And it's a really deep problem. It's not something that's easily solvable. It requires a lot of thought, a lot of planning, and a lot of collaboration. So what's interesting, have built companies in the past, and some, actually most of them have been focused on large global footprints. And one of the biggest things I've learned is I have to build all these things on my own originally, because most of the time I talk to people what I want to do, and when they see how big it is, I get the same reaction almost every single time. That's really ambitious. That's not possible. How are you going to do it? If it was that easy, someone would have already done it. So because of all that, I've had to look at, you know what, I'm just going to build it on my own, put everything in place, find key partners that I can work with to understand and learn. And I spent a lot of time researching here. Here's been several years. My other companies have spent several years in India, for example, learning about the culture and how to build things out there. And then once I get to a point where it's something that seems impossible is possible, and then I start sharing with others on how to do it, why we're doing it, and then it moves away from the conversation of this doesn't seem possible to like this could be possible, and that's when people start taking interest, and then I can build it to where I want to be because I now have people that believe in it. It's hard to get people to participate if they don't believe in it. What we really need right now is partnerships, a global collaboration, a coalition of people that are all aligned to the same core values and the same vision and mission to help solve and provide access to water to everybody. There are a ton of companies out around the world, thousands and thousands and thousands that have different types of technology that dig wells, and those are all valuable. They're all important because they all add to the solution. There's not one solution that can solve the entire planet's problem. It's just logistically, it's very difficult. However, there are a lot of people in every country, NGOs, government organizations, private companies that have networks of people that are working within community, working within industries, and they have the relationships and the expertise. We need to tap into that. If we have the source, we have the ideas on how to make it flow to them. We have technology we've been building to interconnect everybody that's a part of our network. But in order to make this successful and make it feasible for solving a mass problem, we need a lot of people. You need a lot of people working together, and it's very, very feasible. It really, really is. How this works is you need access to water, you need access to distribution, you need access to because Iceland is an island, it needs to be shipped. Um, the way we looked at it was, how do we ship in modular components? Shipping in a massive tanker, and we've been approached many times, 50 million liter tanker. What if you do that? We looked at that. There's so many risks, and they're very expensive to have these tankers and to build them. The other challenge with something like that is, if you try moving a large tanker, it's out. That means nothing's happening until it gets back after its long trip. But then it's the arrival at the location. Most places around the world, ports, can't take a 50 million liter tanker that's unloading all that water. They just don't have the infrastructure. But what the world does have on most ports is containers, 20-foot containers, a big bag inside of it that's designed for water and juices and things like that. You fill it up in the facility here, truck backs up, we fill it up, close the doors, there's a little more to that, but then it just drives to the harbor, and you have a shipment that's ready to go. 24,000 liters in a bag is quite significant when you start adding container after container after container. This facility has been set up so we can run 2 containers at a time, fill them both up. It doesn't take very long to fill them up, and then it's on the way. It can be put on a ship, or it can, well, actually ship to start from here. Once it gets to mainland, then it goes on to either a truck or a train. Thought with, how do we distribute it across Europe and all the interconnected continents, is using the train system. And by doing that, we save on the environment, because it's easier, it's much cheaper. And being able to distribute across the continents that way would be the most feasible, and it can create an ongoing supply chain from here. And then, of course, to make all that happen, we need partners in country. So even if we ship it from here to another country, having a facility that let's call a water facility, whatever that may look like, could be government utilities, could be a bottling plant, could be could be a data center that needs lots of clean water. Having those partnerships set up could be a hub for us, where we deliver them the water they need for their own business or their local region, but enough water that then could be used to distribute into areas that need the water. So setting up those type of hubs, and then the network of best way to describe is like an Uber driver, someone who could go in and place an order from the local community through an NGO, and the water would just be picked up at the local regional hub and distributed. So setting up these networks from here, it would all be interconnected. Well, what's interesting about it is it's a very simple product to move, not logistically, but it's water. Water goes from A to B to C to D. So we created a software called PureFlow, and the technology integrates basically an order from an NGO comes in to our office, and if there's any CSR programs in place, it would allocate the funding to cover that order. Anybody that's in the system would be able to see from their perspective where it is. So, for example, the person who places the order, the NGO, would be able to see that the order has been placed with the regional hub. That hub would get the order on fulfillment. They would be able to pick it up, assign it to a driver, pick the water up, and distribute it. From our perspective, we would see on our system that water has been taken from this hub to fill this order, and this driver is the one taking out, and we can track the whole engagement and process. And then we also track the levels of water that facility has. So when it starts running low, we would know there's a lead time to deliver. We could just deliver replacement water to make sure that they're always filled. From a CSR perspective, a funder, they would be able to log into their own dashboard. They'd be able to see where the water is going, when it's arrived, who it's helping along the way, the costs associated, and the impact it has, the community, who in the community, how many people. So all that stuff would be tracked in the one system. And our goal is to create this transparency between everybody that's involved, every single stakeholder, from the source of water to the last mile, and all the stakeholders along the way who are contributing to that process. By including this technology and everybody into it, we're all part of the same team, and we all help each other and support each other and see, the entire process, and how what we're doing here helps over there. So this solution was one that I thought had a lot of potential for one main reason: the abundance of access, and pure access. So there are a lot of solutions that pull water out of the air, which are fantastic, but not those solutions don't work everywhere. You go to a very dry environment, it's very difficult. Drilling wells is also great depending on where you are. But again, when climate change happens, when floods happen, when contaminations happen, then what happens? Um, and then there's the sustainability. How long can you sustain that with aquafills being over extracted, the increase in population? It's having a toll on the access of water. Where I saw this was Iceland has 170 trillion liters of pure fresh water that's lost into the ocean every year, and it's renewable. So it's water that comes back constantly, and it's been doing this forever. But what's interesting about it is the 2.2 billion people that need water. That's less than 1% of all the water in Iceland that's lost. That can supply 2.2 billion people worth of water. So to be able to solve the water crisis, Iceland has the potential to do that. It really does. All it is the logistics on how to make that happen. And don't get me wrong, Iceland won't be able to solve it because it is really, really massive. And from a logistic perspective, it would take a lot of shipping, a lot of shipments, a lot of infrastructure change here to achieve that. But it does have the potential to make a significant impact and help millions and millions and millions of people. Helping countries and communities stop thinking about water and start focusing on economic development and education and like water is a basic human right, and everyone should have access to it. And just because of where you're born, and you don't have the opportunity to get access to water is crazy, with people being sick and dying because they don't have access to something that is our world has plenty of. And commercializing on it is, you know it's not fair. It's just not fair. And because our planet has a lot of these things that aren't fair, I just want to equalize the opportunities for everybody, so we all have the ability to change our lives and help our kids and grow our communities and build a better world. And someone has to do it.